What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about the differences between a GT40 setup and a GT40p setup. Before we begin, this is your upper intake, your lower intake manifold, and your GT40p heads. Typically a GT40 setup is going to cost you any more than $400, and this is really like the most bang for your buck if you want to increase the horsepower on your Foxbody or small block Ford. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Right here we have the GT40p head. The way you identify a GT40p head versus a GT40 head is the dead giveaway here. You see there's 4 hash marks. This is a GT40p head. So on a GT40 head, you're going to have 3 lines on there. Also, the dead giveaway is that you see here, this head is actually stamped GT40p. They don't all say that, and the GT40 heads may also say GT, but you may not actually see that marking right there. But if you do, that makes it easy to tell. Another difference is going to be on your GT40p heads. The spark plug is going to stick out almost like 80 degrees from the side. This makes it really difficult or actually impossible to change your spark plugs with certain types of headers. Might be a deal breaker for some people because you don't want to have to remove your headers just to replace the spark plugs. In order to actually run spark plugs or to actually set these up on a Mustang or something else with headers that let them fit, you have to run like a 90-degree spark plug wire. The headers on an Explorer, which is what these came off of, are made to clear these spark plugs, and that's also what you see these tubes here for. These tubes are just kind of pressed in there. You can easily take them out, so you won't always see the tubes. But if you do see the tubes in there, then that lets you know that it's a GT40p head. Before we go any further, I'm just going to give you a few quick facts to compare and contrast with GT40p heads. So first off, the GT40 heads are the older style heads. They came on the SVT Cobra from 93 to 95. They came on some Explorers and Mountaineers from like late 96 to 97. So those were probably extras that were laying around in the factory. So you look up if you find a set of GT40s on an Explorer. And of course, they came on the SVT Lightning from 93 to 95. The GT40p heads came on most of the Explorers and Mountaineers. So as far as differences go, GT40p heads have really crappy springs. If you want to use these on a Mustang, these springs are not going to hold up to the cam that's going to be in your stock Foxbody. So if you get yourself a set of GT40p heads, you absolutely have to change the springs on them because these aren't going to cut it. The GT40p setup does not have provisions for an EGR because the EGR system on a GT40p is external. The GT40 heads are actually going to have the proper holes in them for an EGR setup. All right, if we actually turn the head up on its side, we can actually get a look at the combustion chambers. So the next difference that comes in here between the GT40s and the GT40Ps is the GT40P actually has a smaller combustion chamber, which is actually going to allow you to have more compression. So that may help increase your horsepower, but it's not a big difference. Some of the GT40P heads have a 51 cc combustion chamber. The GT40 heads have like a 66 cc combustion chamber. The other thing that's different between them is going to be your exhaust valve. The GT40p head has a smaller exhaust valve than the GT40. So the GT40 has a 1.54 sized exhaust valve. This one has a 1.46 sized exhaust valve. So that's that for the differences on the GT40p head. I mean, your pros and cons basically is with the GT40p head, you're going to have higher compression, but at the same time, if you get a stock set of heads, you're going to have to change out your springs. So, you know, add in another $100 for your springs. And then if you want to deal with the pain in the butt of having to buy short spark plugs and all new wires and try and figure out how you're going to change out your spark plugs with your headers, you know, that's what you're going to deal with the GT40p. But you could potentially net a small amount of horsepower more with a GT40p setup. On to the lower intake. Again, GT40 setup does not have an EGR system. The GT40p setup does have the EGR system. So if you have a real GT40 lower intake, you would have to modify it to run an EGR, or you would just have to not run an EGR at all. So the GT40p is what's going to allow you to run your EGR setup. And same thing with your upper intake manifolds. So first off, as far as GT40 intakes go, there are three types. You have this one here, which is going to be known as your Explorer intake. There is your Cobra intake, which looks a little bit more similar to the stock intake on the Mustang. And lastly is the tubular GT40 intake, which comes on the F-150 Lightning. That's the only car it comes on. The tubular intake did not come on Mustangs. The thing about the tubular intake is it's a really awesome looking piece. All three intakes actually flow about the same. The Explorer intake by far is going to be the cheapest one that you can get. These things are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. The Cobra intake, I mean, if you can get it, get it. But if you can't get it, don't stress about it. But definitely the tubular intake is something that people are going to want to search for. And they all flow the same. But, you know, the GT40 tubular intake is a really nice looking piece. All right, last thing we have over here is it's a world-class T5. So I know people always want to argue and go back and forth about these world-class transmissions. And I happen to have a world-class T5 sitting here. So first off, you can tell the difference. The only way to tell the difference is by this bearing race right here. On a world-class transmission, it's flush with the casing. On a non-world-class transmission, you're going to see a groove all the way around. It almost looks like the lid of a can. So there's like a little gap, like a lid. So that's how you tell the difference. There's absolutely no way to tell the difference when it's on your car because this whole area here sits underneath your bell housing. The world-class T5 came on pretty much any Mustang after 1986. So again, if somebody's trying to sell you a world-class transmission like it's something special, do not go for it because most likely if you're looking at anything after 86, the car probably already has a world-class transmission in it. And that's the last time I'm going to address that. So thanks for checking out the video, folks. Stay tuned. The Mustang build is coming. I have only a few more parts to gather, and we're going to get ready to transform this car. Thank you for watching. Bye.